Okay, so I am Kristin Chadwick. If you don't know me personally, it is lovely to meet you. And today I wanted to share with you a tool that I've been using the last, oh gosh, I think May is when I started using this tool because as a podcaster, you have all of these things to remember you've got to record, you've got to schedule, you've got to promote your podcast. And I love that this AI tool takes your long form content and creates lots of short form content, and it's pretty easy to do. So between castmagic.io and another one called opus.pro, which I'm not going to talk about that one today, those are my two favorite ways to help create that short-term content. Um, and so you're not just recreating content all of the time. So I know when I first started podcasting on my own, which uh, a little history here is I started podcast producing in 2016 for a very well-known family, and I worked for them for about 4 years, and then I started my own production company based off of what I had learned with them, and created my own podcast in 2020, like much of the rest of the world. And in that time period, I felt like I was constantly creating content. So I would record my episode and then I'd be like, oh, I guess I got to post something on social media, and it would have nothing to do with my episode. And so it was just a lot of creating content, which, as you know, can create burnout, or it can create then you just kind of lose that joy of creating um, just an outpouring of what God has called you to do and serve your people. And so I want to help you in that and not do that where you get to a point where you're like, I hate social media. I can't stand to be on there. And this is one avenue that you can take in that process. So let me show you. So this app is called castmagic.io. And why is it not popping up here? Let me see. Okay, let me re-find it again. Hang with me, guys. Okay, there we go.
No worries. Take your time.
All
Never works when you need it.
right, okay, there we go. Okay, so here is castmagic.io. All right, can everybody see that? Okay, so this is an overview, so there's definitely more to it. I just wanted to put this out there so that you guys can see what this tool is. And like I said, it has been a game changer, especially as somebody who has my own podcast, which is podcast coaching for Kingdom entrepreneurs. And then I have a lot of other podcasts that I help write content for after they've recorded an episode. So let's just jump into here. So the first thing that you see all of these are my podcast episodes right here, is you go in here after you record and you can drop your audio or your video file into here. You can do your podcast, you could do Zoom calls, you could do, say like we did this webinar, I could come in and drop the audio file into here. And what it's going to do is it's going to do a transcription of all of that. A really cool thing is that you can connect your RSS feed in here, and your RSS feed, if you don't know, is basically your home address. It should be on your hosting platform. And that is where it will pull from, just like Apple pulls from there. And you can put that in there. You can sync it up and it will find a new episode. Like I should have a new episode that should populate here in just a second. So let's do this one. So revamp and grow was my last episode. So let's create a transcript. Yes, it was already done. So I was going to say, I already did this one. Oh, here we go. Let's do this one. This is a very short episode. If you listened to my episode yesterday, it literally was 2 minutes. It was a reminder to go and be with your family and not work on Labor Day. So, all right. So what it's doing is it's processing and going through and transcribing what that episode was. And either I'm not going to wait for that. I will just do last week's. So then once you click on it, it will have, okay, you have to label your speakers. So who all is talking in your episode. So if you ever do an interview, say Sabrina and I are doing an interview, I can come in and say, actually, this isn't Kristin, this is Sabrina, and you can label it in that way. And then it will pick up on her voice versus my voice, which is really helpful when either A, you need to put your transcription onto your hosting platform for some reason, or in here in your AI content, this is like the cool part here. What it does is it has a list of prompts that it will pull from your content that was spoken there, and then it will give you different prompts that you've already given it, and it will pump out. So like this, for instance, it will give you titles, keywords. So this is really helpful. Sabrina's in one of my podcast growth programs where we talk a lot about how important keywords are. And so it'll tell you how many of those words can be applied here. So if you're ever doing like a YouTube video or any kind of like blog, you want to make sure that you've got some of these keywords in there. It can write you an introduction. So say I want to go back, like I just did an interview and now I want to go back and do an introduction. You've got an introduction right here that you can just record real quick, plop that at the beginning of your episode. And there you go. It also has timestamps overview. So I know a lot of YouTube videos do a lot of timestamps, which is really helpful, or inside of other podcasting apps like Pocket Cast does this as well. You can just copy and paste that. And then here's key topics and bullet points. I don't really use that one too much. And you can always minimize that by clicking that little arrow. Here's a reel script. So if you wanted to make a reel about your upcoming episode or your episode that just was released, you have a little script here. And then here's some questions, which are great for, say you have a Facebook group like mine. My Facebook group is based off of my podcast. So here's some great questions that might be a great follow-up to what I just talked about on the podcast that I could go live and talk about it. So I love that. And please stop me if you guys have any questions, because it's like a fire hose of of what it can do. So another one of my favorites is it pulls quotes from your podcast, which if you're anything like me, I love seeing quotes from podcasts. I think it gives a good snapshot of what's been happening on that episode. And you can turn that into a tile on your social media as a post. Or if what we do with our clients in management, we do a lot of editing and publishing and writing show notes, and we'll grab 2 or 3 quotes to put inside of their show notes to make sure that people can see what you actually said inside of your podcast episode, which I love that. Then, Sabrina, I know you'll like this, is they have a written up LinkedIn post, which is great. It actually does it specifically for LinkedIn. As with anything AI, and I'm sure Denise, you know this is just a tool. I wouldn't directly like copy and paste this over. I would put it into a Google document and then I would change it, the wording. I personally cannot stand emojis. So I usually take all of those out, and you can actually modify. So say like, instead of 3 points, I would like 4, or can you remove all emojis from this? So here we go. Let's see. Remove all emojis. And it will redo it. in a little bit. So we'll come back up to that in just a second. There's a newsletter. I can write a newsletter. I definitely utilize this over the summer so that I could really be hands-free and not have to worry about that. Okay, so here's the LinkedIn post now without the emojis. So it's pretty cool how you can modify it pretty quickly. You don't have to go in and delete all those things. But yeah, coming back to the newsletter, this was great because it helped me get a really clear newsletter all summer long where I really wanted to be out of the office and not doing newsletters, but I also wanted to show up consistently for my listeners and remind them that I was doing a whole series over the summer. So it's great to have that. You can also create what's great Facebook group post, and so it'll give you ideas for that. And this is where it's really helpful because I'll get stuck with content creating based off of my episode, and this will just help jog my memory. So I love for example, instead of Tea Time with Betty, we rebranded to Financial Wisdom with Betty. Anyway, it just kind of points back to your podcast episode over and over again. There's Threads by Instagram. I mean, it's got everything in here. YouTube Live description, social carousel. This is really important when you're, I talk about this in my podcast growth course where when you release an episode, you have a 72-hour window where your podcast is going to be top priority in algorithms. So social carousels are going to be great options for your podcast. This is, yes, Sabrina, this is just for audio. Right now, it's only for audio. So the Opus.pro is more for video, and I highly recommend that. And if we have time today, I'll go pop over and show you that too, because it's such a great tool. And my kids are home today, so if you hear them, they're having their best life playing Fortnite at the moment. So yes, so great question there. Okay, so here's all different slides that you can do, or like a post swiping over, especially for Instagram. It's really popular right now. Conversation starters, you guys, there's so much that you can do. What's a great analogy if you need an analogy to talk about from your podcast episode? Let's see what else. There's YouTube Shorts, which is another great tool to use here. And you can customize your prompts pretty simply. So let me go up here and show you. Okay, so they have examples, so you can start with examples. So here's, let's see. So say I want to, Sabrina, I know you use LinkedIn, so we'll see what other LinkedIn things are here. You could write a post on market observation, mindset and success, true story and results. So let's do 3 steps, 3 pro tips, common misconceptions. Let's do mindset and success. Let's click that. And so it'll take a second, write a short LinkedIn post based on the context in this recording, the revamp strategy. So then it will pump out this LinkedIn specific post right here, and it'll be specific for that. Say you want to create a lead magnet, which is pretty cool. You can have that in there from this episode. So it's going to go through the episode and figure out what would be a great lead magnet to point people to your email list or your offer, which is all really cool. Okay, so that's your AI content section. Magic Chat is more of like your typical Chat GPT, like where you just ask it a question and it will go through your content and figure that out. So let's see, I don't know why it's being so slow here. Well, that's simply what it is. I don't know why it's not wanting to go there. And then the studio is more of a, like if you have that quote that you want to use, it can create a picture in the background. It's, uh-oh. Hold on, let me reload. Okay. The studio, yeah, so here we go. So let's do text. But you can grab content. Let's see here. Sorry. Oh, where am I? Come out of here. Exit. There we go. Okay, so say I wanted to grab oh, I'm trying to find a little quote. So actually, let's go to our quote here. Sorry if this is dizzying. You can change your title anytime you want. Okay, so let's grab that guy. Oh, all right. I don't utilize the studio one as much because I think you can do better graphics in the in Canva. So, okay, this is not working the way I thought it was going to work. Ugh, okay, never mind. We'll play around with that one. But basically you can grab a quote and you can create like a background of what it showed there, which, like I said, I don't think that's the greatest part of this, but it is something if you wanted to do that. Sabrina, you asked, did you also say that this will give you the breakdown of your episode that you can use for a blog post? Absolutely. So watch this. Okay. Let's go to AI content. Let's see if there's any examples. So here's a blog post right here as an option. So we could do, I'm just making sure there's no other ones that I wanted to use. Okay, let's do this one. All right, so it's going to do a 600-word blog post expanding on the topics discussed, including a title, subheader, as well as section headers for each section, which is really cool. And I have used this for my my actual podcast website for that blog, and it's really great. And I love that it does break it down in titles and subheaders. So there's that option right there. Any other questions with the blog, Sabrina?
No, I've just I know that I've seen where I guess people have their podcast on a specific website, either it's attached to their main website or it's a separate one. And so in each episode, is that considered a blog post or is that like the transcript? Because I guess I've seen it both ways, but I personally would appreciate having like a breakdown, like on, so that's why I asked about video, because on a video, right, you can scroll over to see the different parts of the episode. So is that a feature that is a part of this, to where, let's say, you know that you talked about this specific topic in here, but you want to get to point 3 because that's the one you're most interested in.
Right.
So it will create some like a kind of like a breakdown for you.
Yeah, and that's more like in the timestamp area.
Okay.
So if you wanted to do like that, you can utilize that, and you can always modify, like, so make it longer or shorter or whatever. Because what I think I hear you saying is more of like in YouTube when there's like chapters. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yes.
So thankfully YouTube does that automatically. If you upload your video in there, it'll automatically give you chapters in that. And then you could also utilize this as well to update that inside of the YouTube platform, like in their management of your video. But yeah, good question. I would say more on like a website or like a podcast section of somebody's website, that it would be more like a blog. And then you could also have like your link to your podcast so that they could hear specifically what you're talking about in each of those. Because what you could do too is you could grab your transcript and break it down in that way. But it's just, most people don't read transcripts anymore unless there is like like you're hearing impaired. That is why there's now transcripts on Apple Podcasts, which is awesome. But I would say most people that are going to a website or a blog don't want to read a transcript. They would much rather read something that's put together like you've written it out, not just spoken it. Does that make sense?
It does, yes. I've just seen like where a podcast host, I get his emails, and I notice that he'll say, what we've talked about in this episode or whatever, and he gives like a breakdown. It's not lengthy. It's probably like just 3 little short snippets or something. And I wonder if he uses a tool like this in order to create that, because to me, it's super helpful to be able to see, okay, they talked about leadership and then this and then this. And for each one, it's like maybe 2 sentences, 3 sentences. But it gives a good overview. But he's not giving all the details of the episode, but I like to do that. So if this tool does that as well, I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I love what you're saying he does. I think that's a great like simple way for people to be like, "Ooh, I want to hear this part of the podcast." Which I know that's very effective, even in your show notes, if you wanted to do that, like break it down in that way too, because people are already in the app and they can be like, oh, she talks about podcast guesting at minute 15 specifically for what do I bring as a podcast guest? Or I think I mean, here with this is more of like the broad view of everything. And then with the details and the timestamps, that's where that's going to be super helpful is this breakdown right here. And you can reword it too. Like, okay, well, apparently I switched over talking about podcast title here. And then later on, I talked about podcast content. So I want to make sure that I clean up that wording there, because the AI maybe didn't quite hit it, but it knew that I switched the topic. Does that make sense? So it's really, again, a tool to use to help clean up and simplify and really create less time going through that yourself. Like, can you imagine the time that it would take to like listen of like, okay, and now I switched to here at this time, and this is so helpful because it really does it for you. So yeah. Any other questions there? No. Okay. Just gonna see if there was any other ones that I wanted to point out here. I have a lot in my prompts, so you can definitely not have it this many. Here we go. Where's that? Oh yeah, the curiosity, value, fast, hungry for more. So you can create your own prompts too. So if there's one that doesn't fit, which, okay, let me explain this part too. So community prompts, these are people that have created prompts that are already in the system that you can use. That's what comes up in the like automated AI content already. Like if you're like, I need to add this to my space, which a space is like, okay, this is my podcast space. So podcast coaching for kingdom entrepreneurs, or, kingdom coaching, or kingdom connections podcast. That's your space. So if you wanted to create, let's see, a short form content script, you could add that to your space so that every time you put a new audio in there, it will automatically put an short form content script in there. Does that make sense? It's pretty cool. And you can go through all of these and see like what, like if you do text messages out to your people, some people have that in their mail. You can create that, a thank you email. Those are all just community prompts that people have already created. Or you can create, whoa, hold on, where did I go? I just made y'all really big. Come back down. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Or you can go here to new custom prompt. So what would a prompt be that you would want to create, Sabrina?
As far as like
what would
something
you?
that I would put out regularly, or
Yeah.
I want to start utilizing the podcast in blog form. I don't know if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. So let's do a blog post based off of episode, oops, for podcasts for podcasters. Actually, I'm gonna take that off. So blog based off of latest episode for podcasters. And then you can also put like a sample of your tone and your style. So if you're a little bit more of like an educational background, professional, so you can copy and paste maybe like a transcript that you've already done before and have that tone in there so it knows your voice. Or say you're more casual and laid back, you can copy and paste some old transcript in there or something that you've written before that sounds more like you, and you could put that in there. Then we can save that, and then it will create, hold on. Where did it go? Sometimes it plops itself somewhere random in this list. Thanks for being patient, guys. Okay, so here's the blog post it's trying to write. So it's going to go off of what I told it to do, and I can always refine this too. So again, based off of what my episode was about, which was having a clear title, podcast title, and updating your cover art, it gives very clear exactly what I said. Be clear, interesting, and reflective of your content, updating your cover art, keep it simple, use clear fonts, professional look. This is helpful for you, Denise. And then I talked about the new growth and key takeaways. And so I would just, what my workflow is I would copy that, put it into a Google Doc, and then just go through and create my own language around it, and just fill in the parts where I'm like, that sounds a little too like computery, and I would fix that, and that's that. So it's a lot simpler than sitting down and writing an episode or writing a blog post based off of my episode myself. Yeah. Any more thoughts on that, Sabrina? I know your camera's off and you're muted, but want to make sure that I answered that.
No, I think that is really really cool and very helpful in what I'm understanding. And maybe I want to make sure that I'm understanding what you can create. So basically you can set parameters around, so let's say for every episode that I want to produce or publish, every episode I want to put out, I know I'm going to do an email. I know I'm going to create social media. I know I'm going to create a blog post. So can you basically set those parameters up and say, so for every episode that I drop in here, go ahead and create these things for me.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Which is amazing and will save you
Wow.
time. Yeah. So that's why I use this thing like crazy this summer when I was like, I do not have time to be consistently doing a newsletter in my post and all of that. And so it would just populate. And then the only thing really I had to do was just, like I said, copy and paste into my Google Docs, make sure it was what I actually wanted to say and it was clear. And then the post I just created inside of Canva. But it just helped kickstart all of the pre-creative process of like, okay, it would make sense to do an Instagram post where I'm talking about these 3 mistakes, because it pulled it up for me. So, where's that one? That one's really good too. Yeah, the 3 mistakes. I like that one because a lot of people are like, "Ooh, I don't want to make a mistake." So, yeah. Denise, I see you're on. Do you have any questions?
Great tool, amazing tool. It's something that you pay monthly for.
Yeah,
Is
so
that-
it does
and
cost money.
do you
Yeah,
also have Chat GPT? Because this is obviously connected to Chat GPT.
yes.
So you may not even need that.
Yeah, so Chat GPT, if you pay for Chat GPT, you could probably set all of this up. The beauty of
It's
the
already
Cast
done.
Magic is that it can automatically sync up to your podcast
I love
audio, which I really like. I still use Chat GPT for other things, but this is so helpful because all in one place and it's really for podcasters. So it's already programmed for that.
I love it.
So yeah, it's a great tool. So
And in your business, you teach people how to do podcasts, how to start.
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
All
Yeah,
right. So
so
is that on your Facebook page that I joined? Is that your
yes.
Facebook page? Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, so and my podcast is called Podcast Coaching for Kingdom Entrepreneurs. And
Yes. That's
the series that I just did this summer is for you. It's 10 steps on how to start a podcast.
okay.
So it's everything you need to know. And then yeah, I'd love to do a one-on-one call to hear more of your specific podcast and how I can help in that way.
Perfect. That
Yeah.
would be great. So do you have a calendar link on that page?
I don't know. I'll
I'll
find
send you
you,
a
message
message.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
And we'll
that
connect
sounds good.
that way. Yeah. So just to wrap up here, with the Cast Magic, it is a monthly fee. So there's like the hobby fee, which is $39 a month. And then there's starter, which is 99, which is where I'm at. And it gives you a ton of, it's basically you're paying for the storage of all of that audio. And again, like I said, it does pump out so much value. I mean, it's basically like having a virtual assistant, but in the AI form. So I think it's absolutely worth it. But that's that. And I do have like a little affiliate link because like I said, I love Cast Magic. And it saved me so much time. And it still saves me time. I can be a little bit more involved now that my kids are back in school, and so I don't use it as much as I was using it this summer. So but still, it's amazing content creating an organization more than anything because I already have the content. I see it more of like a diamond of you have your long form content, which is like the core of what you are putting out there. And then let's pull from that. And it just gives you that organization of what all you could pull from one piece of content. So that's that. Any other questions?
Thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Yes, absolutely. We'll connect outside of here.
Okay, I'll touch base. Bye, ladies.
All right. Bye, Denise.
So I just have one very quick question. So I heard you mention two different pricing things. So
Yeah.
could you, in fact, like, have you explored the more basic one to see if I mean, that would be sufficient? I guess I'm wondering a little bit more about what the difference is between those two tiers.
Yeah. So the $39 one, I think that you could get by because the reason why I have the 99 is because I have so many different podcasts that I'm helping. So I think that you could get by with the $39. Um, I don't remember specifically what the hour or the storage rate was for 39. So you might have to look at that when you like go to their homepage. It might have it all broken down for you. Um, but I think that you would be sufficient with that.
Okay. And is there a way to get this link that you just shared maybe excuse me, elsewhere, because I'm on my phone and I'm not
Yeah.
gonna I want to make sure that if I do sign up that I use your
Yeah.
link.
Yeah. So I posted it in the event, Facebook event, but I
Okay.
can also send it to you via email or Voxer or whatever is easier.
Okay, yes, if you could just drop that in the Voxer, that would be great. I
Perfect.
really appreciate this. This has been really good, and I think you're right. Like it's like a virtual assistant.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely worth it for sure.
Yeah, super helpful. Thank you.
All right. Well, enjoy your lunch and thanks for coming on. All
Thank you.
right.
Bye.
Bye, Sabina.